Like my bug could read my mind, it seemed to turn all by itself onto the highway that led to the Muskogee Turnpike and, eventually, to the most wonderful place in this world, my Grandma Redbird's lavender farm. Unlike the drive from school to home, the hour-and-a-half trip to Grandma Redbird's farm seemed to take forever. By the time I pulled off the 2-lane highway onto the hard-packed dirt road that led to Grandma's place, my body ached even worse than it did that time they hired that crazy new gym teacher who thought we should do insane weight circuits while she cracked her whip at us and cackled. Okay, so maybe she didn't have a whip, but still. My muscles hurt like hell. It was almost 6 o'clock, and the sun was finally starting to set, but my eyes still stung. Actually, even the fading sunlight made my skin feel tingly and weird. It made me glad that it was the end of October, and it had finally turned cool enough for me to wear my Borg Invasion 4D hoodie. Sure, it is a Star Trek The Next Generation ride in Vegas, and sadly, I am, on occasion, a total Star Trek nerd, which, thankfully, covered most of my skin. Before I got out of my bug, I dug around in the back seat until I found my old OSU trucker's hat and pulled it down on my head so that my face was out of the sun. My grandma's house sat between 2 lavender fields and was shaded by huge old oaks. It was built in 1942 of raw Oklahoma stone, with a comfortable porch and unusually big windows. I loved this house. Just climbing the little wooden stairs that led to the porch made me feel better. Safe. Then I saw the note taped on the outside of the door. It was easy to recognize Grandma Redbird's pretty handwriting. I'm on the bluffs collecting wildflowers. I touched the soft lavender-scented paper. She always knew when I was coming for a visit. When I was a kid, I used to think it was weird. But as I got older, I appreciated the extra sense she had. All my life I've known that no matter what, I could count on Grandma Redbird. During those awful first months after Mom married John, I think I would have shriveled up and died if I hadn't been able to escape every weekend to Grandma's house. For a second I considered going inside. Grandma never locked her doors, and waiting for her, but I needed to see her. To have her hug me and tell me what I'd wanted Mom to say. Don't be scared. It'll be okay. We'll make it be okay. So instead of going inside, I found the little deer path at the edge of the northernmost lavender field that would lead to the bluffs, and I followed it, letting my fingertips trail over the top of the closest plants, so that as I walked, they released their sweet, silvery scent into the air around me, like they were welcoming me home. It felt like years since I'd been here, even though I knew it had been only 4 weeks. John didn't like Grandma. He thought she was weird. I'd even overheard him tell Mom that Grandma was a witch and going to hell. He's such an ass. Then an amazing thought hit me and I came to a complete stop. My parents no longer controlled what I did. I wasn't going to live with them ever again. John couldn't tell me what to do anymore. Whoa! How awesome! So awesome that it sent me into a spasm of coughing that made me wrap my arms around myself, like I was trying to hold my chest together. I needed to find Grandma Redbird, and I needed to find her now. Chapter 5. The path up the side of the bluffs had always been steep, but I'd climbed it about a gazillion times, with and without my grandma, and I'd never felt like this. It wasn't just the coughing anymore, and it wasn't just the sore muscles. I was dizzy, and my stomach had started to gurgle so badly that I was reminding myself of Meg Ryan in the movie French Kiss, after she ate all that cheese and had a lactose intolerance fit. Kevin Kline is really cute in that movie. Well, for an old guy. And I was snotting. I don't mean just sniffling a little. I mean, I was wiping my nose on the sleeve of my hoodie. Gross. I couldn't breathe without opening my mouth, which made me cough more, and I couldn't believe how badly my chest hurt. I tried to remember what it was that officially killed the kids who didn't complete the change into vampires. Did they have heart attacks? Or was it possible that they coughed and snotted themselves to death? Stop thinking about it. I needed to find Grandma Redbird. If Grandma didn't have the answers, she'd figure them out. Grandma Redbird understood people. She said it was because she hadn't lost touch with her Cherokee heritage and the tribal knowledge of the ancestral wise women she carried in her blood. Even now it made me smile to think about the frown that came over Grandma's face whenever the subject of the step loser came up. She's the only adult who knows I call him that. Grandma Redbird said that it was obvious that the Redbird wise woman blood had skipped over her daughter, but that was only because it had been saving up to give an extra dose of ancient Cherokee magic to me. As a little girl, I'd climbed this path, holding Grandma's hand more times than I could count. In the meadow of tall grasses and wildflowers, we'd laid out a brightly colored blanket and eat a picnic lunch, while Grandma told me stories of the Cherokee people and taught me the mysterious-sounding words of their language. As I struggled up the winding path, those ancient stories seemed to swirl around and around inside my head, like smoke from a ceremonial fire, including the sad story of how the stars were formed when a dog was discovered stealing cornmeal and the tribe whipped him. As the dog ran howling to his home in the north, the meal scattered across the sky and the magic in it made the Milky Way. Or how the great buzzard made the mountains and valleys with his wings. And my favorite, the story about young woman's sun, who lived in the east, and her brother, the moon, who lived in the west, and the redbird, who was the daughter of the sun. Isn't that weird? I'm a redbird and the daughter of the sun, but I'm turning into a monster of the night. I heard myself talking out loud and was surprised that my voice sounded so weak, especially when my words seemed to echo around me as if I were talking into a vibrating drum. Drum. Thinking the word reminded me of powwows Grandma had taken me to when I was a little girl, and then, my thoughts somehow breathing life into the memory, I actually heard the rhythmic beating of ceremonial drums. I looked around, squinting against even the weak light of the dying day. My eyes stung and my vision was all screwed up. There was no wind, but the shadows of the rocks and trees seemed to be moving, stretching, reaching out towards me. "Grandma, I'm scared," I cried between racking coughs. "The spirits of the land are nothing to be frightened of, Zoe Bird." "Grandma?" Did I hear her voice calling me by my nickname? Or was it only more weirdness and echoes, this time coming from my memory? "Grandma?" I called again, and then stood still, listening for an answer. Nothing. Nothing except the wind. Unole. The Cherokee word for wind drifted through my mind like a half-forgotten dream. Wind? No, wait. There hadn't been any wind just a second ago, but now I had to hold my hat down with one hand and brush away the hair that was whipping wildly across my face with the other. Then in the wind, I heard them. The sounds of many Cherokee voices chanting in time with the beating of the ceremonial drums. Through a veil of hair and tears, I saw smoke. The nutty sweet scent of piñon wood filled my open mouth, and I tasted the campfires of my ancestors. I gasped, fighting to catch my breath. That's when I felt them. They were all around me, almost visible shapes, shimmering like heat waves lifting from a blacktop road in summer. I could feel them press against me as they twirled and moved with graceful, intricate steps around and around the shadowy image of a Cherokee campfire.